Are you an avid anime fan? This video will blow your mind. The 70s were a wild time for animation. Think less Disney magic, more boundary-pushing, rule-breaking madness. These films weren't just cartoons. They were rebellions on screen, tearing up controversy with sex, politics, and jaw-dropping visuals. Some got banned, others barely escaped censorship, but all of them left a mark on how we think about animation today. Buckle up because we're diving into 10 animated movies that rocked the boat and got banned for it. They're weird, wild, sometimes uncomfortable, but always unforgettable. Let's go. Fritz the Cat, 1972. We start with the most infamous of them all, Fritz the Cat. Released in 1972, this film made history as the first X-rated animated movie in America. Directed by Ralph Bakshi and based on Robert Crumb's underground comic, Fritz the Cat was a wild, no-holds-barred satire of 1960s counterculture. It featured everything parents feared: explicit sex scenes, drug use, profanity, and sharp political commentary, all acted out by talking animals. It mocked religion, race relations, the police, and even radical leftist groups. The film shocked audiences worldwide. It was banned in South Africa, Malaysia, and parts of Europe, and sparked protests from conservative groups. Even more controversial, Robert Crumb, the original creator, hated the adaptation and publicly disowned the movie. Despite the backlash, it became a massive underground hit, proving animation could be bold, adult, and dangerously rebellious. The Nine Lives of Fritz the Cat, 1974. If the first film shocked audiences, the sequel, The Nine Lives of Fritz the Cat, pushed the envelope even further. Released in 1974, this follow-up ditched Robert Crumb's involvement entirely and took Fritz on a bizarre, episodic journey through 9 alternate realities, each more controversial than the last. From encounters with Nazi soldiers and fascist regimes to blatant racial and ethnic stereotypes, the film embraced a chaotic and satirical tone that many found deeply offensive. One segment imagines a future where New Jersey is controlled by militant African Americans, while another sees Fritz as an astronaut caught in a sex-fueled space mission. It was banned in Germany, Norway, and several Middle Eastern countries, where its use of political and religious imagery was deemed unacceptable. Critics slammed it as tasteless, incoherent, and exploitative, even more so than the original. Still, it gained cult status, remembered not for its quality, but for how far it dared to go. Coonskin, 1975. Next up is Coonskin, another explosive film from Ralph Bakshi. Released in 1975, Coonskin was a bold, violent, and surreal satire on race, crime, and the American dream. Mixing animation with live action, it told the story of 3 black characters, Brother Rabbit, Brother Bear, and Preacher Fox, navigating the criminal underworld of Harlem. But what really set it off? The film's graphic use of racial caricatures, exaggerated blackface imagery, gangsters, corrupt cops, and mafia stereotypes. Even though Bakshi aimed to expose and critique racism, many couldn't look past the surface. The Congress of Racial Equality protested the film before even seeing it, calling it offensive. As a result, it was banned in several U.S. theaters, pulled by Paramount Pictures, and became nearly impossible to find for years. Yet over time, some critics have hailed it as a misunderstood masterpiece, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically political. Belladonna of Sadness, 1973. From Japan comes one of the most hauntingly beautiful and deeply disturbing animated films ever made, Belladonna of Sadness. Released in 1973 and directed by Eiichi Yamamoto, this psychedelic art film tells the tragic tale of Jean, a peasant woman who is brutally assaulted, betrayed, and eventually turns to witchcraft to reclaim her power. The film's story is raw and devastating, but what makes it unforgettable is its art style, a hypnotic blend of watercolor stills, flowing line art, and erotic imagery, inspired by European Art Nouveau. But that very beauty hid darkness too raw for many. Its graphic sexual violence and unflinching feminist themes led to bans in South Korea and heavy censorship elsewhere. Audiences and critics were polarized. Was it art or exploitation? Belladonna of Sadness vanished for decades, becoming a lost cult gem, until it was restored and re-released in the 2010s, gaining a new wave of critical acclaim. Tarzan, Shame of the Jungle, 1975. Tarzan, Shame of the Jungle, released in 1975, is one of the most outrageous animated parodies ever made. This French-Belgian spoof of Tarzan took the iconic jungle hero and twisted him into an absurd, perverse satire packed with full frontal nudity, sexual innuendo, drug use, and surreal adult humor. The film mocked colonialism, war, and masculinity, but it did so with imagery so explicit it shocked censors across the world. It was banned in the UK, Ireland, and several US cities, and became the center of a legal firestorm when the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate, owners of the Tarzan copyright, sued to stop distribution entirely. Despite the backlash, it gained a cult following, and an English-dubbed version featuring voices from John Belushi and Bill Murray was released in the US, though it had to be heavily edited to avoid an X rating. Tarzan didn't just cross the line, it swung right past it, leaving censorship boards scrambling. Watership Down, 1978. At first glance, Watership Down looks like a gentle animated tale about rabbits, but this 1978 British film is anything but cuddly. Based on Richard Adams' best-selling novel, it follows a group of rabbits escaping the destruction of their warren, only to face brutal predators, environmental collapse, and violent warfare along the way. The film's graphic scenes of blood, death, and psychological trauma shocked audiences, especially since it was animated and marketed toward families. Children were left horrified, and parents were outraged. Rabbits are mauled, strangled, and buried alive in what many called one of the darkest animated films ever made. Though never officially banned by governments, it was prohibited from being shown in some Australian and Canadian schools. And in Germany, it was slapped with a restrictive age rating due to its intense violence. Watership Down may be animated, but it's a harrowing meditation on survival, fear, and death, far from your average kid's movie. Allegro non troppo, 1976. Allegro non troppo, released in 1976, is Italy's dark and surreal answer to Disney's Fantasia. Directed by Bruno Bizzetto, this experimental animated film pairs classical music with bold, twisted visual storytelling. But where Disney celebrated beauty and wonder, Bizzetto dove into madness, despair, and satire. Each musical segment is a commentary on the human condition, from the cruelty of evolution to the horrors of war, and even the aftermath of nuclear annihilation. There's bizarre nudity, grotesque humor, and scenes that challenge religion, politics, and consumerism. The film was banned in Singapore, censored in several countries, and heavily edited for US and UK audiences due to its provocative imagery. Critics were divided. Some hailed it as a masterpiece of animation and social commentary. Others condemned it as blasphemous, offensive, and disturbing. Allegro non troppo isn't just a film. It's a visual rebellion, daring to ask, what if animation told the truth? Fantastic Planet, 1973. Released in 1973, Fantastic Planet is a psychedelic sci-fi landmark, a French-Czechoslovak co-production directed by René Laloux. With its dreamlike animation and haunting soundtrack, the film tells the story of a future where tiny humans, known as Ohms, are enslaved by giant blue aliens called drags. But beneath the surreal visuals lies a powerful allegory, exploring oppression, rebellion, and the fight for freedom. The human struggle to resist domination mirrored the very real political tensions of the time. As a result, Fantastic Planet was censored or banned across several Eastern Bloc countries, where its anti-authoritarian message was seen as a direct threat to communist ideology. In Soviet-influenced regions, authorities feared it would inspire unrest, and they weren't wrong. The film quickly gained underground popularity among students, artists, and dissidents. Today, Fantastic Planet is hailed as a cult classic, a timeless reminder that animation can be just as radical and revolutionary as any live-action film. Heavy Traffic, 1973. One more entry from animation provocateur Ralph Bakshi. Heavy Traffic, released in 1973, was a raw, semi-autobiographical dive into the chaotic heart of urban America. Blending animation and live action, it follows Michael Corleone, a young cartoonist navigating the brutal realities of 1970s New York, a world of sex workers, gang violence, racial tension, and broken dreams. Visually gritty and emotionally intense, the film tore down the illusion that animation had to be clean or cute. It dealt with taboo topics head-on, from interracial relationships to mental illness, all portrayed with dark humor and surreal imagery. Many critics were stunned. Some praised its boldness. Others called it morally repugnant. The film was banned in Ireland and rejected by censors in several conservative U.S. states, who deemed it unfit for any audience. But Bakshi didn't care. Heavy Traffic wasn't made to comfort. It was made to confront. And in 1973, the world just wasn't ready. These films dared to tackle taboo topics: sex, race, politics, and the darker sides of human nature, in ways that rattled cages and challenged viewers to think differently. Whether it was through psychedelic visuals, sharp satire, or emotional storytelling, each movie pushed the envelope and tested the limits of what animation could be. And while many faced bans, censorship, or backlash, their impact lived on, inspiring future creators to break free from the just-for-kids stereotype. At the end of the day, these banned films remind us that animation is a powerful medium for expression, not just for laughs or light entertainment, but for provoking thought and shaking up cultural norms. They prove that sometimes the most memorable stories come from those willing to risk controversy and offend the status quo. So next time you think of cartoons, remember the 70s rebels who dared to color outside the lines and change the game forever. Yup, that's the list. Write your comments below and subscribe to the channel for more.